Hi, it's Warren Huart here. Hope you're doing marvellously well. Thank you ever so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will say your comments and questions and stuff you leave below are so positive and so insightful. It blows me away. I learn so much, and the questions that you ask fuel more videos and more conversation. And I really feel like I have a great sense of community here with everybody that contributes. Thank you ever so much for contributing. As ever, please subscribe. Go to producelikeapro.com and sign up for the email list, and you'll get a whole bunch of free goodies and information on future videos, competitions, and of course access to our premium channel where there'll be even more fun stuff to look at very soon. So this is the full band version of the Matthews song Colourblind. We've already done the piano vocal version, which actually was done in reverse. We did this full band version and then we stripped it down and recut it with a piano, but used the original vocal. But what is interesting is you're going to see how the vocal, even though it was recorded over the band version, works in both environments. Okay, so let's check out the song. Okay, great. So let's go up to the top here and check out the drums, because obviously this is a huge difference between the version that we did with the piano and the version without. So it's very, very simple. We've got one kick drum mic. Here it is. Very, very simple. On this kick drum here, we have a phase shift. We've basically flipped the polarity on it, so it's in phase with our overheads. We have our overheads here. They are EQ'd quite heavily in this instance. We took out a lot of the low mids and below, so here it's at 568. This isn't typical of every single song, but it was with this because there's a huge density of guitars that you can hear in places. Oh, and also there is, on these overheads, there is the 2500 compressor by Waves. Take it off. It just sweetens it up a little bit. The snare top, I've actually got a gate on it. The drums, let's just say the player wasn't the heaviest of hitters, so there was a lot of bleed coming through. Not a huge amount, as you can tell by looking at the wave file and listening to it, but a reasonable amount. Boosting the top end quite significantly on the snare to give it some life. Just to kind of brighten it up a little bit, because there wasn't much snap. When a guy plays the snare pretty hard on the snare top, you can get a little bit of, extra stick out of it. He was hitting it very softly compared with a lot of rock drummers. So I compensated with high EQ there. Here's the hi-hat. Cool. And then of course we have rack and floor. There was not a single rack tom played by the looks of it, so the rack is muted. Okay, so let's go to our chorus here and highlight the drums so you can get an idea. Here's the natural drum sound with reverb on it. So that's the small room in there with a fake room reverb, as we call it. There's a half pipe, which is to look. And it's just exaggerating those hits on the snare drum. Now, if you sign up for my email list, you'll be able to download the drum package of samples that I use, and I use them all in this one here. You can see the drum package here. So let's drop those in as well. One of the biggest differences you can hear there is the Dave Jordan ones here. I'll give you that. That's these two here. They're the shotgun ones. They're adding quite a lot to it, as you can tell. There's also an additional snare verb down here. I got an MV2, just leveling the signal coming in. And that's being triggered from a sample. And then I've got the eventide that I'm using for the snare verb. Quite a long decay, it's 2.5 seconds. And then I've got another MV2 after that. So it's quite aggressive. If I take that off, put it back on. It's a big part of what's making that snare rock out a little bit. I mean, the snare's good regardless. It's got a reasonable amount of room on it. When you put that on. Okay, and then here's our 3 elements that make up our kick here. Again, you can get that on the drum package if you go to the email list. Cool, so that's our drum sound. It's a blend of some samples with the live drums. And the reason why I do that is because I'm not in Sunset Sound. As you know, if you look at like the Blame It on the Whiskey arrangement one, there's no samples on there. I'm in Sunset Sound. I'm preserving a great drum sound. And then there's another song where I went into Sunset Sound and the artist wanted me to make it the drum sound a little bit more modern sounding. And so I ended up putting some samples against that. So really it's horses for courses, as my dad would say. You know, what is the best solution? And sometimes you don't have huge rooms available, so you're taking small rooms like this. Like, you know, this is a very small drum room. We're going to go and do some stuff with other people where they have larger living rooms and you can do drums in there and get a bit more room ambience. So really it's deciding what is the drum sound you're trying to achieve, whether you're able to get the exact drum sound you want for the track in the room you're in, or whether you're in a room, you can capture some live performance, some live energy, and then add some samples as you need to make those drums sound bigger, if necessary. I mean, there's certain kinds of music, like with Trevor Hall's record and Mark Broussard's record, where I didn't use that many samples, if at all. And like on Trevor's record, the only samples I used were actually kind of the kick that he played against himself and the snare that he played to make it just feel a little fatter and a bit more even. So it's really understanding what you need, what it is that you're going for, and then you can sort of build accordingly. The great thing is you can have a small drum setup and get a big drum sound. Okay, so let's listen to the top. That's our basic big drum sound. Here's the top of the song. Okay, so the main difference between this and the acoustic version is obviously there's a bass. There's actually 2 basses, because when we get to the pre-chorus there's an overdub, which you'll hear. Okay, so here's the bass tone. We have the time adjuster on the DI and the mic. What I did differently here is I used a bass speaker, believe it or not. So what this is a speaker. It's an actual speaker miking the speaker. And it's exactly the same principle as the NS10 kick, except this came well before that. Jeff Emmerich on Taxman, on that boom, 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 that huge bass line, from what I've read, used an 18-inch speaker miking an 18-inch speaker. So that speaker just only picks up the super lows. Have a listen. Really compressed as well, coming in. Even if I take all the additional EQ off, you're going to hear exactly what it sounds like. See, even without the EQ on, still very fat. It's a great way to print a subby bass tone. So what you do is you take, here's your speaker cabinet that you're playing through, or combo. You take another speaker cabinet and roll it up against it, and take that speaker and put it into a DI box and get enough level up to drive a mic pre. And it'll give you those super lows. So the thing is that is the furthest behind. So here we've got the mic. If you see here, see I'm highlighting the mic. That's behind the DI, because here's your DI. See, it's behind. But then again, even more, the speaker is further back. So you've got cabinet, microphone, speaker. Please ask questions and comments below and we can talk about it in more detail. Okay, so you've got the DI here, then you've got the bass mic, and then you've got the bass speaker. And they're all running a time adjuster, just bringing them back in phase, so the polarity is good with the source that's the latest. And it's nice to do that because, to be honest, a lot of bass players, especially if they were guitarists, tend to play a little bit on top. So this, if anything, is even better. It just brings it back a few samples behind the kick. It's a nice addition. Now, what I did on the DI here is I rolled off the super lows on this DI, so it kept out of the way of the speaker. Same with the microphone on the speaker, but on the actual speaker, I did the opposite. I just kept the lows. So the great thing about that is you've got a DI and a microphone, which are super lows are rolled off. With the speaker system that I was using to mic the speaker itself, I kept all the super lows, and then they're out of the way, and there's no polarity or phase issues. It's really, really cool thing to do. Cool, so that's our bass sound. Now, with the pre-section here, the second bass comes in. So he's playing a melody here. And I'm driving it with a Sans amp on the high melody. The Sans amp just gave us a little bit more grit and drive if we solo that on the second one. And I'm EQing the lows out of it the same way I would on the others. See the weight that that speaker brings in? It's ridiculous. Without it, in. It's great. So let's have a listen through the intro to the chorus and you'll hear the way the bass changes and the other elements. Now obviously there's a lead part here and a little eighth note chugging acoustic. Using the API, Waves API 550, which I like. They do a really good simulation of it. And a little API compressor there. Great. Let's go to the lead guitar. Now that, as you can see, is just, there's no amp on that. That's a DI alone. So I wanted something a little kind of cutting. So the DI, just a good old-fashioned DI into a 1073. So it's the Sans amp. You can see the settings I used there. The thing about using a DI and using amp simulations, or in this case a Sans amp, is it just gives it a little bit of angularity. Is that a word? The thing about being digital is it just gives it like a little bit more bite. So use sparingly, it's great. And then of course my old favorite Echo Boy. And we're not using 100% mix, of course. We've got it weighted so to the dry. Cool. The vocal comes in. If you go to my vocal tricks link, we'll have it come up on the screen here. You can hear how I did all the vocal. It's obviously the same, essentially the same settings as the piano one, but with a lot less effects on the piano one and more effects on this because this is a denser mix, so we cranked the effects a little bit more. Okay, here's our verse. One step from the red to acoustic here. That's my Yamaha acoustic. My old one, the 70s one. It just sounds great and it's cheap. Go to eBay. Okay, now the pre-chorus comes in with that bass line. Okay, let's not miss that out. So what I'm doing there is a little reverse vocal effect. Gotta find it. Here it is. Okay, so the reverse effect is basically that I can't, the I. So all you do is you take the word I, put a reverb on it at 100%, just audio suite it. Now I don't know in your particular DAW whether it be Reaper or Studio One or Logic if you're not in Pro Tools, but the reality is like just put the reverb, have a long decay time, have 0 dry signal, so it's all the wet signal, and just have the word like I, and just have that huge reverb, print it, and then flip it around and you'll get this effect. So you get that, there's actually a little delay built into it. The reverb I had like a little delay between the two sides, but essentially it's just a reverse reverb. Simple as that. As you can see, it comes up as RVRS, which in Pro Tools means it's been audio suited to reverse. So once again, you can do it with anything. You can do it with a snare drum. So you could put a huge reverb, so it's, and then you'll reverse it and you'll get, it's a pretty awesome effect. But it's nice on a vocal because his first word of this pre-chorus is the I, and it adds to the emotion of the words. Have a listen. I don't know. Cool. And then there's another reverse effect here. So that's all, I don't know. That's all of those words done in the reverse effects. So we could do a little tutorial on reversing stuff like that as well. But anyway, please ask me some questions about that. Now, on this pre-chorus, the acoustic changes here, and of course the bass line. And the acoustic is following that da 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 da, that vocal melody. So look, a genre of music that I absolutely love is Motown, and I tell people all the time, and this is kind of a golden ticket moment. Honestly, I believe this thoroughly. When you get, the thing about Motown, and if you get like really good hip hop and R&B, one of the things that hip hop and R&B does when it's done really, really well, and a few bands get, is everybody is playing the song. Go back to Motown. And like, I've talked about this before probably, but listen to Heard It Through the Grapevine. You get down, 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 down. The bass line is picking up the, you know, best you bottom, bottom, boom, 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 boom. So James Jamerson is playing the chords. He's picking up the chords, but he's also picking up the vocal melody. So the bass line is playing, holding down the chords and exaggerating the vocal melody. And the same thing, the piano player is playing the dun 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 dun. So where you can, have everybody playing the song. Listen to Ringo when he plays drums with the Beatles. He's exaggerating and accenting the vocal melody. So it's everybody playing the song. It's not just parts. It's not just like a guitar part strumming or playing an arpeggio. This arpeggio is picking up the lead line as well. So it's things like that. The bass line, let's find our bass line. The overdub one. So we have the low end playing the chord. It's a great melody, why not exaggerate it? So you get the idea. It's a nice little production technique, but honestly, It's underused. Let's all be playing the song. You know, great Motown did that. Listen to the great Motown songs. And when I worked on X Factor, one season they had us do mashups between Motown songs and current songs, and they wanted the feel of Motown songs. And I got given this huge amount of sheets of songs that were pre-cleared of Motown, and I'm just sitting there going through, going, wow, I know every single one of these songs. So there's some good lessons to be learned from Motown. Okay, now getting into the chorus, there's some reverse stuff going on. So it exaggerates the downbeat, so there's some fun stuff here. So there's just reverse cymbals, and on the downbeat, I've got a reverse effect. That's a reverse snare drum with a snare drum hit with a cymbal in it. And there's actually like a low kick in there as well. So it's a combination made of a kick, a snare, and a cymbal to create that explosion. Cool, so that's the downbeat. So let's go back, listen to that, and go into the chorus. Cool. So let's talk about that chorus, because all these choruses will share the same idea. So obviously we have a lead vocal. Here's our lead here. If I can fight, if I can fall. Here's the two backgrounds against it. If I can fight, if I can fall, if I can hurt and hold on, if and hold on. So we had him do something a little bit more interesting along against it. Because of you, I'm blind. So you can see it's not an exact match of it. It's just like, because in this kind of thing, this is rock and roll and passion. So sometimes background vocals don't have to be like 90s R&B pop and super tight and perfect. Have them sing and be a little kind of wrong. Here's a double. Again, you throw all these together. If I can fight, if I can fall, if I can hurt and hold on. So he goes, hold on. He's not going, hold on. Fall, if I can hurt and hold on. If I can see through your lies. Another harmony comes. Broken and blue, because of you, I'm blind. See, broken and blue, I can't get that high, because of you. Again, he's not singing the exact timing, but he's giving this passion. Eyes broken and blue, because of you, I'm blind. I'm just... See, the blind goes longer. I'm just colorblind. Right? So you see all the elements in there, and they're not perfect. Yeah, I mean, I've pitched it here and there where maybe it wasn't like, there was a little rambling bits, and it wasn't quite perfect. I may have just taken something and just nudged it in occasionally, but the essence of it is it's a little loose, it's passionate, there's longer held out notes, and it gives you this. Let's have a listen to the choruses. Cool. So the other thing about this chorus is the band are all playing the same groove. So if we listen. Down, down. Cool, so here are our elements. Let's go to our main heavies here. Here's our main heavies. Egnator, 57. A little low roll off here. It's just gentle. You know, with this whole conversation that I've seen, some crazy conversations about high passing, there is not a problem with high passing. You can high pass, just don't get overly aggressive and don't do it on everything all the time. But with a big guitar sound like this, of course I want to high pass. But there's some super low rumble in there, which I do not need. And will just mess up the detail of the kick drum. See, it barely makes a difference, but it makes enough of a difference for me. It just gives clarity. So I've gone to 75 Hertz and done a gentle low roll off. So the guitar's fat, but it's not low area that's going to mess with my kick and my bass. As far as like here's a pair of cleans. So it complements my heavies. And then there's another part here. So together we get a lot of melody. These guys are Irish. They've got melody in their blood. The heavies are obviously super important to this because this is a rock song. Again, when I came to mix this, I had amp tones, but I realized that I wanted to use the Sans amp with the H delay because honestly, it just gives us, it's just a little bit more bitey. If I take that Sans off, that's all it is. So what I always do, you'll notice, or very often, is I print a clean DI with an amp tone. People ask me why I do that, and I say it's because when I come to mix, I can change the tone. And here is the perfect example. If you see underneath here, there is a grayed out guitar, which was the amp. But I came to mix and I had far too many amp tones, but I wanted this to cut through. So I just used good old-fashioned, comes free with Pro Tools Sans amp. And it just bites. Doing my heavies. It just works together, all the elements. That's our chorus. See the way the snare plays off that. Has that same groove. There's also an acoustic. There's a density of guitars here, but all the parts complement each other. They're not just there for the sake of it. So it's playing that exact same down, 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 and it's low, and it's compressed, and it's bright. It just adds to the energy. It's very important. We talked about mixing in a previous video. It's not always about hearing every single part. It's about, does the part add to the sum? I put those acoustics in because I missed them when they left the song, but they're not a feature. But they add that down, down, go down, down, which is the basic groove that the drums are playing, and it's the basic groove that the bass is playing. So here's the bass that we retracked to fit with the guitars and the drums. there's no real necessity for top end on that bass tone. It's just fat, because we have so much top end stuff going on. So again, it's like the bass is being EQ'd and treated differently there than it is in the verses. There's not that sans amp, there's no bite, you know, there's a sans amp in the pre-chorus to bring out that stuff. So don't be afraid to EQ sections and treat things in different ways for different purposes. So yeah, the bass is just putting in the low end. Doesn't need the extra bite because we have tons of guitars giving us bites, so why would we have the bass doing it? It's a mix thing, yes, but it's also a production thing. It's like deciding what the tone should be and where it should be a different tone. You know, I think when you're making decisions like this, try to make them as you're tracking, because then by the time you come to mix, it's going to be a lot easier. You know, each bass sound there is a different sound for a different section. We have the high line thing with the distortion on it for the sans amp to bring out that little high line. And then the bass in the chorus is a completely different bass sound because we just need the low to thicken up the density of guitars. And there's a lot of guitars going on in there, but they're complementary. They're creating like a harmony part, and the acoustics are there just to reinforce that basic groove. They're not there to shine above anything. They're just there to fill it out a little bit. So this is our second verse guitar. Got one pad hard left and one right, and there's an H delay on it. I love this part. It's like a big difference in that second verse. This harmony one comes in. It's just pedaling. There's a little tension and a little harmony. So that's a little re-intro. The acoustics playing a more filled out part. In the first verse it was just framing the chord with a little arpeggio. Now it's playing through on the arpeggio. I hope this gives you a lot of production ideas. Listen to the verse on its own. Extra pedal tone, high line coming in. Cool. Let's go to the second pre. We're using all the same tricks. The first one, the extra bass line over the top. The only other thing that's coming in is we've got this little, just a nice chorused guitar. That's using my Colourblind chorus. Okay, great. Second chorus. Same elements as the first. Cool, so the next big change is going to be our bridge. I've got this I've got a melody part which is being played here. Let's listen to this. And then I've got my DI sans amp playing an octave of that. Hear it separately. And together. And there's a clean guitar part. Kind of a little edge guitar part. They are Irish after all. And there's a heavy. Just framing the chords. I just can't forget, no, 'cause you keep talking Cool, so let's listen to the whole bridge. Now we have the break, build, this was added and overdubbed later. We had the break, but we didn't have the drums playing through, so we added some additional stuff. So don't be afraid to do what you need to do. So that's an overdubbed snare build. And then in our break here, great, that little snare fill there, it's using a Joey Kramer sample. And some extra verb. So let's check that section out. So yeah, we created this breakdown and then we were like, well, it's cool, but we need something to drive through it. Max played a great guitar line, here it is. It's a harmony chorus guitar part using the Carl Martin chorus pedal. Great. So it's fun. And you know, like little production stuff, like changing it up, changing the drum sound, giving it a different feel. Nobody's going to sit there with headphones and go, oh my God, the drum sound just changed drastically. If it tells a story and it feels good, then just do it. And so that felt like the right thing to do, just to have a little build. And then we're going to come into an instrumental section here. It's just pushing that lead part up. The only thing I'm really doing here is I'm using a Pultec simulation, giving it was very fuzzed. I was using, I believe, my Big Muff pedal into a Marshall. It was good, but it lacked that So there's a lot of 500 coming from this. 1K from that side. So it's kind of a combination of an edge kind of part. Then it goes to Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. And then back to the chorus. And this is pretty similar, except, as you can see, there's this additional vocal here. And this additional vocal is just kind of a cool, insane part.
If I can fly, if I can fall, if I can hold on,
he's just wailing. It's rough and ready and just sounds fantastic. It just adds this energy. He's just like going for it. He was 16 when he sang this, I think he's now 17, maybe 18. Decaying chords with a little acoustic guitar. playing it here. Just this part here. I just added it afterwards. It seemed to make sense to finish on something like that over the decay.
I'm just
And the chorus decay underneath. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope that was very helpful. Please, as ever, leave me a bunch of questions and comments below. For me, the lessons in this particular video are, once again, small drum room, create big drum sound. That's using my sample package that you can download, from the website. But also I can do that with addictive drums now. This was a year or two ago, and I wasn't using the addictive drums as much. However, I do what's best for the song. So sometimes I might use my sample package, sometimes I might use addictive, sometimes I blend the two together. It really depends. But for me, the biggest lesson is, like, you want big drum sound, you can make a big drum sound. You can make a big drum sound out of like 6 or 8 mics, or you can go to a big room and do it. It really depends on what's best for the situation. There's a density of guitars there. There's a huge rhythm guitar that's filling the whole thing up, and there's some high lines. However, the high lines are supportive of each other. You've got that line that's kind of driving, but then there's a part that plays off it. They're not like competing lines. They create one guitar part. When I hear that chorus, I hear a high line and heavies. Everything else is just reinforcing that. It's not a case of having like 5 different guitar parts playing 5 different melodies so your head's spinning. It's a case of like producing it so that they add to each other. Really, for me, it's still simple, even though it's complicated in parts. It's simple because it's saying one direct message. And then also, don't be afraid to change it when necessary. The breakdown originally just went to that doubled electric guitar part. And then we realized it just didn't feel like it was exciting enough getting into that chorus. So we added another drum part, like a really simple drum part, where it's playing off of the floor, and then it does that da-da-da-da at the end. Very Joey Kramer, so we used the sample of a Joey Kramer snare. We also did 3 different bass approaches. We have the basic bass sound in there, but there's also an overdub of a high line with a little extra distortion so it cuts through. And then in the choruses, there's a completely different bass sound, which is really straightforward, and it's just a low, thuddy bass. Because with those highline guitars and that big fat guitar, we didn't need another competing highline. So what we have is just the bass sound of just the lows fattening up the chorus. So the lessons are really drum sound. Even in a small room, you can get a big drum sound. Even if you're using a lot of guitar parts in a chorus, make sure they complement each other. And then, of course, with the bass line, you can have 3 different bass sounds in a song to fit different sections of the song. So it's really just a case of doing a lot in production so that when you come to mix, it's a little less work, but all the production stuff is done there. It goes back to what Chris is talking about, where he's getting a lot of mixes from people, which are just thousands of different guitar ideas, but they're not really complementing each other. They don't make any sense. So commit to ideas. Here, what we tried to do was commit to very specific ideas so that it wasn't a case of like having the mixer or in the mix figuring out which bass sound to use. We had very specific bass sounds for different sections of the song. The guitar parts, there was a lot of guitar parts, but they complemented each other so that it was like guitar lead idea, heavy rock idea underneath it. And then even though there was acoustic guitar in those choruses, they were there to frame the guitars, the main guitars, and exaggerate the kick and snare idea. So please, as ever, leave a bunch of questions and comments below. Please let me know how you do these things. Let's have a great conversation about it. As ever, I really appreciate all of your insight and your tips. And thank you ever so much for watching, and have a marvelous time recording and mixing.